Gender and gender identity are complicated ideas. Conventional wisdom dictates a clear difference between what is masculine and what is feminine, and what is a man and what is a woman.
You know, I think that we identify certain things as masculine and certain things as feminine, whether it's something as simple as pink and blue or sports and cooking. I don't think that fundamentally changes what a person is, but it changes how they're perceived. So certain things are perceived to be more masculine or more feminine.
If you're born male, you're male. If you're born female, you're female. But what if you're not? What if you don't fit into these societal constructs?
When conception occurs and the egg and the sperm meet, the sex of the baby is determined. The sex of the baby. And that is by the chromosomes. And then within the mother's body, there's a job of the mother's uterus to read that sexual identity and send hormones down to that fetus and create, because when they first are born, all the male parts and female parts all look the same right at the beginning. And so it's the mother's body to wire the brain and say, yes, you're a boy. And it doesn't work right all the time.
Transgender means that somebody's biological sex does not match their mental sex.
Gender identity is between your ears. It's how you think. I have thought like a woman since I was 5 years old.
My earliest memories go back to when I was 3. And I remember my family, like my parents, trying to dress me in like pink and like girly clothes and dresses and stuff, and I would resist it. And I would cry, and I would fight them off just so that they didn't try to put random things on me. Like, they tried to make me who I wasn't.
I used to then put my covers over my head and say, but God, can I just be a girl for a day or a week? I think I'm supposed to be a girl. And, but I wasn't. And it was, you know, the 1960s, and I wasn't.
The most comfortable time I ever recall in my entire life was my 4th birthday, because my parents had let me get my hair cut short for the first time. They let me pick out the clothes I wanted to wear for the first time, and nothing was questioned that day. Nobody referred to me wrong that day. Nobody paid any special attention to me that day. It was just literally my day, where I could be myself and everybody else could be their selves, and I wasn't different from the world that day. As a child, it was extremely difficult because you grow up having older people tell you what you are supposed to do every day, and who you're supposed to turn out to be. And as a child, it seemed easier for me to look at my friends and picture how they would grow up and who they would be and what they would look like. And it was hard for me to picture myself growing up as a woman. To me, it was just the weirdest thing ever. And it was just really sad, because everything always seemed so much easier for everybody else, and like 1.5 million times harder for me every day. And as a child, it's hard because you don't know why. You don't have the knowledge to go back to. You don't have somebody to be there to tell you it's okay. You're okay. You're not. There's nothing wrong with you. But I didn't have that, and I didn't have answers. So growing up as a child, it was all about questions with no answers. When I was a kid, I would dread the question, are you a boy or a girl? Because I would hear it so much, and it was the most idiotic and ignorant thing anybody could ever say to me, but it was the thing I heard almost every week at school. The things that were most difficult in high school were the little things that most people take for granted. you wouldn't think that having your name called would hurt somebody, but having a full name like Aubriana, when you identify as a male that's named Aubrey, it's extremely difficult being in the classroom full of kids you've known forever and having your name called out like that when it's not your name. It's not who you are. And that substitute is going to point at you and force you to identify as that other persona. And I hated that so much. Little things like that, dude, they eat away at you. They build up. And after a while, it makes you not even want to go to school anymore. Being transgender in school was like wearing a sign on your face that says, I'm different.
Different is a strange term because kids are different from one another in a variety of different ways. But the idea is, you know, what we consider to be the norm, which is a societal construct, versus the abnorm, right? And we want to make room in our schools for everybody, which is always a problem, whether it's, you know, the way someone dresses, or the way their hair looks, or, you know, the color they are, or whatever. I mean, with transgender issues, obviously, like, awareness is very important. A no discrimination policy, no tolerance of discrimination policy is always important. I think probably the most, like, tangible thing is gender neutral bathrooms.
I think that schools should put out more awareness of what transgender means and what it really is, and that it's a real thing, and that it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with this person, or it doesn't mean that you should judge this person.
I think it's very important to educate all students about this topic. It's something I think that everybody's going to come in contact with at some point in their life, and I just think tolerance and respect is necessary, and it's just, you know, an important skill to have. So even if you don't believe in it or you have different philosophies, tolerance is the best thing. So just, you know, I think the earlier on that we educate students, the better prepared they'll be for the rest of their lives. So, you know, again, if they get to college and they have a roommate or something like that, where it's someone they haven't met before, it'll just help them, you know, learn how to live with that person and be friends with them.
I just think there needs to be more awareness and more acceptance of people that are transgender, because being transgender leaves you feeling alone all the time, and school should be a community.
I think there's some students and teachers who understand. I think there's a lot of education that still needs to be done.
I feel extremely misunderstood all the time, because I have to wonder if people really understand what it means and what it means for me and what it's like for me. To me, transgender means that life is harder for you every day, that you have to live in fear because of who you are, and that everybody's going to misunderstand you just because of something you can't prevent.
I do think that there is some prejudice mostly around the misunderstanding of it. And
I have experienced lots and lots of prejudice and negativity and harassment. I've been called things like a dyke or a lesbian, which are both very untrue.
Gay, lesbian, and bisexual are all about sexual identity, and those people, it's all about LGBT. Many people think it has something to do with that. It has nothing to do with that.
One of my concerns is that I think sometimes students and maybe teachers think that it might just be a fad or a phase and not really be who the student or that person actually is. So I think that can make things a little difficult.
It really takes its toll on you every day, having to wake up, go to school, and walk through the halls and wonder what people think of you. Sometimes it just feels like it would be easier not being around than rather going through that again every day.
out of all the identified areas, from gay, lesbian, bisexual, any in the queer spectrum, any different people that are in the different world, the suicide rate, the alcohol rate, the illegal drug rate, all the highest in the transgender community.
No one will really understand it besides yourself. And that's the toughest part. Because being transgender really leaves you alone. Being a transgender individual is exactly how it sounds. You're an individual, and you're transgender, and you're on your own.